Scene 1. The empty room and echoes from the mist. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine standing before a heavy oak door, its surface scarred by the etchings of time. As you push it open, a wave of suffocation strikes your lungs. The room before you has no breath. It is cluttered to the extreme, stuffed with gargantuan furniture, towers of books masking the sunlight, dusty gold trophies, and dozens of flickering screens pulsing with meaningless data. The air is thick, a terrifyingly loud silence broken only by the frantic ticking of hundreds of mechanical clocks. Each tick is an invisible hammer against your eardrums, urging, forcing, forbidding you from pausing for even a single second. This stifling, cramped room is the truest reflection of the modern mind. We live in an era where filling up is worshipped as a supreme religion. We cram our heads with unrealistic goals, colossal expectations, anxieties for a future that doesn't exist, and the invisible weight of judgment from strangers. We fear the void. We are terrified of stillness. In our desperate attempt to saturate every vacant second, we have strangled the very oxygen of our souls. Over 2,000 years ago, amidst the decay of the Zhou dynasty, a time drowning in bloody power struggles and the cunning schemes of human greed, a sage decided to turn his back on it all. Legend says Lao Tzu, the old archivist who carried the wisdom of an entire age, quietly rode a blue ox toward the Hangu Pass, vanishing into the thick mist of the unknown. He left behind no grand blueprints for world conquest, no strategies for self-optimization or climbing the peaks of fame. Until the only thing he left was a slender book of 81 short chapters, the Tao Te Ching. It was not a manual for winning the endless rat race of society. It was a quiet whisper, a soothing sigh, an invitation to bravely shed the invisible burdens crushing our shoulders. In a world gone mad with haste, Lao Tzu's philosophy emerges as a cool stream flowing through the parched crevices of the soul, reminding us of a primordial truth. Sometimes, the only way to find peace is not by achieving more, but by tidying the room of the mind, returning it to its purest, most original emptiness. Scene 2. The endless vortex of self-exploitation. Feel your heartbeat right now. Is it racing faster than it needs to? Do you carry a restless fluttering, a vague fear of being left behind in a race where you can't even remember the starting line? Modern society has engineered a sophisticated soul-crushing machine where exhaustion is romanticized as devotion and busyness is celebrated as a badge of honor. We no longer live in rhythm with the sun or the seasons. Instead, we have transformed ourselves into relentless production engines, entities obsessed with optimization. Each morning, while darkness still clings to the windows, the first thing to greet us is not birdsong or dawn, but the cold blue glare of a smartphone screen. Unread emails, social media notifications, endless to-do lists. We rush out into the congestion, breathing thick smog, starting the day with the mindset of a warrior entering a battlefield. But our enemy is not out there. It is ourselves. We live in a performance society, where the whips of ancient overseers have been replaced by the invisible pressures we inflict upon ourselves. No one forces us to work until collapse. No one holds a knife to our throats to pull all-nighters for trivial projects. We have voluntarily become the most ruthless jailers of our own lives. We lash our own minds, forcing ourselves to be smarter, richer, prettier, and more perfect. 1 degree is not enough. We need a master's, a PhD. A stable job is not enough. We need a stellar career, a 6-figure salary, a 6-pack physique, a model family, and lavish vacations to parade on social media. Life has become a series of back-to-back sprints with no finish line. We run with bleeding feet and burning lungs. Idleness is seen as a cardinal sin, and boredom is treated as a disease to be cured by cheap hits of entertainment. We don't allow ourselves to gaze at a wildflower or listen to the rain on the eaves. We fear facing ourselves in the silence, because when the world's noise fades, the screams of a soul bleeding from exhaustion become deafening. But this vortex cannot last forever. A string stretched too tight will eventually snap. A soul drained to its last drop will eventually collapse into void and despair. Scene 3. The Art of Letting Go and the Mind's Hot Air Balloon. Imagine standing in a giant hot air balloon, suspended in a heavy gray sky. You want to soar higher, to pierce the dark clouds and touch the sunlight. But your balloon won't budge a single centimeter. Why? Because your wicker basket is tied down by hundreds of heavy sandbags. On these sandbags are named fame, money, validation, family expectations, fear of failure, and pride. You frantically blast the fire, wasting all your fuel to push upward, but it's futile. The weight of those bags is pulling you toward the abyss. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu left a profound teaching that contradicts every modern survival instinct. In chapter 48, he wrote, "In the pursuit of knowledge, every day something is added. In the practice of the Tao, every day something is dropped. Less and less do you need to force things, until finally you arrive at non-action." The modern world teaches us the math of addition. Every day we are encouraged to add a new skill, a new connection, a luxury item, a digit in the bank account. We believe this accumulation brings security. Reality proves the opposite. The more we possess, and the more we worry. The more we cling to external things, the more fragile we become when they vanish. Blind attachment to material values and hollow fame is the root of all suffering. It is like squeezing dry sand in your palm. The tighter you grip, the more it slips through your fingers, leaving you hollow. Lao Tzu invites us to practice the math of subtraction. Following the Tao is not about hoarding knowledge or wealth. It is a process of constant chiseling and shedding. It is the courageous act of taking the knife of awareness and cutting the ropes of those sandbags. Today, you drop the need to always be right. Tomorrow, you drop the obsession with pleasing everyone. The day after, you drop the torment of past mistakes and the anxiety of a future not yet born. Less and less, peeling away the heavy layers, until your mind becomes weightless, transparent, and free as an autumn breeze. Only when you dare to let go of what society deems important can you find your truest self, a self unburdened by prejudice or expectation. Scene 4. The Utility of the Void and the Philosophy of Clay. Picture an old potter sitting quietly before his wheel. His rough, mud-stained hands gently stroke a lump of wet clay. The wheel spins, and the clay transforms, rising and curving into a beautiful vessel. But stop and reflect. What truly makes that pot valuable? Is it the clay on the outside? The intricate patterns on the surface? No. Lao Tzu pointed to a simple but awakening truth in chapter 11. We shape clay into a pot, but it is the emptiness inside that holds whatever we want. We hammer wood for a house, but it is the inner space that makes it livable. And therefore, profit comes from what is there. Usefulness comes from what is not there. We are obsessed with what is. We build thick walls and sturdy doors, proud of the house's grandeur. But we forget that the empty space within is where we actually live, breathe, and exist. If a house were packed solid with bricks from floor to ceiling, it would be a useless block of concrete, a tomb for life. Similarly, a clay pot, even made of the finest earth and fired to perfection, is useless if it is solid. It cannot hold a single drop of water. Our lives follow this same miraculous law. We live in an age where usefulness is defined by the ability to create constant material value. We fear being useless. We fill every gap in the day with meetings, networking, courses, and mindless scrolling. We don't dare let the mind rest, fearing that if we stop, we become worthless to society. But Lao Tzu reminds us that it is precisely those useless times, those moments of doing absolutely nothing, that nurture creativity peace, and deep wisdom. Allow yourself to be an empty vessel. Clear the room of the mind. Throw out the bulky furniture of greed and envy. Smash the ticking clocks. When your mind is empty, it has space to contain the purest beauties of the universe, the light of distant stars, the whisper of forest leaves, and the absolute stillness of a frosty winter morning. Simplicity is not lack. It is the ultimate choice of a soul that understands the essence of living. When you no longer crave to be noticed, when you stop trying to prove yourself, you find a boundless freedom, a peace that no storm can break. To Scene 5, the murky water and surrender to the Tao. Imagine you are lost in an ancient, dense forest. After hours of wandering, you find a small pond nestled in a green glade. You lean down to scoop a handful of water to quench your thirst. But the moment your hand touches the surface, the silt at the bottom is disturbed, swirling up in a cloud. The water becomes murky, undrinkable. In your haste and frustration, you use both hands to stir the water, trying to push the mud aside, hoping to find the clarity beneath. But the more you intervene, the more you try to control it, the murkier it becomes. The ripples clash, the mud spreads, and the initial stillness is ruined. This is exactly how we treat our lives. We carry an arrogant illusion of control. We believe that through willpower and the violent intervention of logic, we can bend everything to our desires. We try to control the future with minute-by-minute plans. We try to control others with expectations. We try to control our emotions by suppressing sadness and forcing happiness. But this universe is a living, wild entity that cannot be tamed. The harder you grasp, the more it slips away. Lao Tzu smiled kindly at this human folly. In chapter 15, he asked, "Who can wait quietly while the mud settles? Who can remain still until the moment of action reveals itself?" The answer lies in surrender, not the surrender of a coward, but the wise surrender of one who understands the way. When facing the murky pond of life's troubles and anxieties, the wisest action is not to dive in frantically. The wisest action is to step back, sit by the shore, breathe deeply, and do nothing. Then let the stillness do the work. Let the silt of negative emotions settle of its own accord. When you stop intervening, the surface of the mind will gradually become as flat as a mirror, reflecting the vast blue sky and the drifting white clouds. The softness of water always overcomes the hardness of rock. Water never fights. It never resists the obstacles in its path. It simply flows around the stone, or patiently erodes it over eons. Water never opposes reality. Learn to live like water. Drop the need to control. Let life flow according to its inherent rhythm. When you stop swimming against the current, when you relax your body and allow yourself to drift with the great flow of the universe, you will realize that the burdens have vanished. The room of the mind is now completely empty, filled with the soft light of peace. And in that absolute silence, you have finally found your way home.